Hey, what's going on, RC drivers? Welcome back to the channel. As you can see, I've got a Tamiya Super Clod Buster sitting next to me. It's the black edition, and this isn't going to be a review video. I just kind of want to talk to you about the Super Clod Buster. I just finished building this one up, obviously. I had a ton of fun doing it. Just kind of want to share that experience with you and share what the Clod Buster means to me. Now, this truck came out in, I think it was like 87, the original Clod Buster, not the Super Clod Buster, and that was just a cool truck back then. I mean, I remember seeing it as a kid in the catalogs and just wanting one. It was massive. You know, nowadays we've got large scale vehicles, so many of them, it just doesn't faze us anymore. But back then, a big Clodbuster like this was just the coolest thing in the world to have. And I always wanted one. And, you know, every year it was on my Christmas wish list. Never got one, but when I started working in a hobby store, I finally got my hands on a Clodbuster, and it had a sassy chassis on it. I've mentioned this here on the channel before, and it was just really cool. It was my prized possession. I think it was like 16 or 17 years old, and while I was working at the hobby shop, it was on display, and someone came in and offered me money for it, and they offered me a lot of money for it, and I took it. And it was probably one of the worst decisions I've ever made to sell that RC vehicle in my life. I've regretted it every day since, but I've wanted one since then. And I've driven some, but I never had one back in my collection again. Then I had a chance to get my hands on this Super Clod, the black edition here. And from what I gather, these things sold out like crazy. It was just a really cool version of the Clodbuster. They have the Super Clodbuster, the blue one. We actually have one here for the channel that I'm going to do a retro build on. But I had to have a stock one. There's just something about having a stock Clod. I don't know whether it brings you memories back for some people or whatever, but it's a cool RC to have in your collection. Now, the Clodbuster is a full build-up kit, and that's part of the fun with this thing. You know, when I opened up the box, all you see is just parts trees that you have to cut the parts off of, and big bags of hardware. I mean, bags of hardware that weigh almost a couple of pounds if you hold them all together. It's just a cool experience to dig through the box for the first time, check out all the parts, you know, smell the rubber from the tires. You have these big monster tires in the box. When you see that, you just get amped about building the kit. And then the body, the Chevrolet style body. The original one had the bow tie logo on there, the Chevrolet logo on the back and everything. But you know, the newer Super Clod obviously doesn't have that. They've got a 4x4 logo in the front, but this body itself has spawned so many builds, and the Clodbuster itself has just spawned so many different types of builds out there, from motor on axle trucks, you know, that are really capable crawlers, to just these incredible monster truck builds that people do. And you can build a Clodbuster basically out of aftermarket parts. That's how, you know, it's really influenced our hobby. And the other day I put this truck on our social media, and someone said, well, it doesn't look really scale, and it does look scale, actually. The body, you know, for the era that it was built in, was very scale. And nowadays, no, maybe it's not, you know, like the super scale truck, but I mean, back then, that's what really got people going into modeling and building and wanting to create something special, something realistic even with this truck. It just did so many things for all different types of modelers out there. But like I said, you know, the body here is just very cool. It's a hard ABS plastic. I just painted this one with black, just one can of black, just hit it. And you know, I'm gonna drive this thing. I wanna drive this thing, so if it gets scratched up, I'm not gonna complain about it. I'm not gonna be too worried about it, but you could go wild and you know, really detail this thing out to make it look even more incredible with the paintwork and everything. But you know, with the Super Clodbuster Black Edition, they give you these chrome decals, which is really awesome. Chrome grille, the chrome roll bar with the lights on top, the chrome bumpers. It just looks awesome for those of us, again, who have been in the hobby forever, and I think it still appeals to people that are getting into the hobby today. We've got these dark chrome colored wheels on here for the Black Edition, and then, you know, it's peeking out from the front and rear, the red bumpers, the red shocks. The shocks are just friction shocks. Yeah, they bounce around a little bit. It's part of the driving fun of this truck. But again, you know, all of it tied together really looks awesome. Now the big deal with this truck is the motor on axles. So we've got two axles, front and rear, obviously. each with their own motor, and again, that's what really spawned a lot of builds out there. And in stock form, these axles are pretty bulletproof, and you can actually put some power to them as well, and they will hold up. There's plastic gears inside. Now, one thing with Tamiya vehicles, as many of you know, there aren't any bearings in the kit, and I actually built this one up with the factory bushings because I just want that full experience of just building a stock Tamiya truck, and most likely it's going to sit most of its life on the wall here in the workshop. I'll take it out here and there and it won't really wear out the bushings. I made sure to grease them really well. But of course you can go get ball bearings yourself. Team Fast Eddie Bearings has a full set. Tamiya has bearings as well. But when you're building up the transmission, just a quick tip for you guys, make sure you pay attention to assembling them. There's a little nut inside that goes into one of the slots, and there's actually a spacer inside one of the gears that has to go in. So make sure you follow the directions to a T. And I'm telling you that because I forgot that spacer. So I had to go and take everything apart. But it was so much fun to build. The chassis on here is the Tamiya plastic. The battery sits in the center. Since it's a Super ClodBuster, there's little tweaks, like, you know, we don't have the mechanical speed controller anymore that came with the original Clod. They do give you a speed controller with this one that is capable of handling both of the motors. And again, they're the 540 Mabuchi motors in there. But one steering servo in the center controls both front and rear wheels. So it's a 4-wheel steer truck, which is very cool, and it needs it, especially if you run a standard servo in there like we did way back in the late 80s, early 90s. All we had were standard style servos that had like 40 ounce-inches of torque, barely moved the wheels, but we still had fun with the truck anyway. But again, the big experience here is building it up. Every time I've seen people talk about this truck, they have so much fun building it. And then, you know, when you go out and drive it, you just got a smile from ear to ear. And if you want to go ahead, detail the body, I mean, that could take you days, and you just enjoy painting it up the way you want it to look. To me, I mean, they really created something special here. Again, it's an icon in the industry. If you go find someone on the street and say, do you know anybody with an RC car? They're probably gonna say, yeah, I know a guy that has a ClodBuster. I mean, that's how popular this truck is. So if you're still able to find one of these, one of the black editions, I'd say grab it because they're just a cool collector's kit to have. There is a possibility that Tamiya will do another run. It may not be anytime soon. So again, if you find one and you've been, you know, kind of thinking about having a Clod in your collection, now would be the time to grab it. But I can't wait to drive this thing. It took me a few weeks to build it up. Again, I wanted the experience. I just built it up here and there, and now I need to go get this thing dirty. So let's head outside and have some fun with this Super ClodBuster. right, it's time to wheel the Clod around while I talk about the drive. And this spot right here that I picked, I think is the best spot for this truck in this entire park, because it's just rough terrain. It's no big jumps. There's not going to be a lot of speed here, but this is the perfect terrain for a ClodBuster. Just having fun with it. It really just brings me back to when I first started in RC, and I actually drove at this track. There was an RC track here, and guys were just driving their ClodBusters around in the parking lot, on the track, hitting just rough terrain like this, and this is bringing me back right now to that fun. I mean, you just hear the driveline chirping on this thing. It's bouncing around, the body's rattling. It's not fast, but there's just something about it. I could just sit here all day and just go over these bumps and ruts and stuff. It is so much fun. And if you started back in the 80s, early 90s, I mean, you know, the Clod was huge then. People wanted to have a ClodBuster, and it's really just bringing me back right now. Look at those wheels just bouncing around. That servo saver's maxing out. It's just so funny to watch. It's fun. Now I hope I'm explaining it right, because it's just this cool driving experience that you get from a Tamiya vehicle. A little wheelie action there, man. I'm a little nervous though. I mean, I don't want to roll it, and there's been a couple times where I almost rolled it. Oh, I just got it muddy. This adds to the fun factor of it, but yeah, I haven't rolled it yet, so I don't want to roll it. I don't want to scratch this thing. I want it to look good. I'm cool with the dirt and the dust and the mud. I don't want scratches on it. But look at that. Here, I'll do a full throttle run for you guys, just so you can see how fast it is. You saw it in the action portion before, but there it is. That's maxed out. That's full throttle out of the box. I've got a 2S LiPo battery just wedged in there. And this thing, look at that, bouncing around. The ClodBuster. I mean, that's why this thing is so popular. Why people have modified it, because it's just this truck that brings excitement, RC excitement to you. From the build all the way to the drive. This thing is cool. Can't wait to build my retro Clod. That's gonna be a lot of fun. I'll head up the race scene with that, I think. But this for the backyard, bounce around dirt, it's rad. All right, guys, let's head back to the workshop and wrap up the video. So after watching that action segment, I bet there's a bunch of people out there right now just reliving some really good memories. Maybe you drove a ClodBuster. Maybe you saw someone drive a ClodBuster. Maybe you just built one and put it on the shelf and you're just thinking to yourself, wow, that was cool to watch. And then I bet you there's some people that are thinking, what did I just watch? What was that all about? Yes, the ClodBuster is a classic RC vehicle. It doesn't handle like today's modern vehicles, but back then when this vehicle was released, that's what we drove. That's what we learned to drive. That's what we had fun just wheeling around, whether it was in the backyard or at the local park in some dirt. It was just a fun truck. You know, this monster-sized vehicle then was something everybody wanted to have, and I think people still want it today. That's why Tamiya keeps releasing the ClodBuster. People love this truck. Out there in the field, I was fighting the steering, just trying to get it to turn, hammering on the throttle almost always, just to get some speed out of it, you know, going reverse to forward to get a little bit of wheelie action, and just, you know, finding some sort of lip on a jump just to get a little air under the wheels. To me, that was just a lot of fun. And again, I was reliving the past. Just when I got into RC, seeing this truck drive around, it was finally cool to have one of my own again and just say, you know what, I'm just gonna relax and have fun. And after the camera was off, I continued to drive this thing. I just sat in the back of my Jeep and I just drove it around the parking lot, kicking up dirt, kicking up rocks, and it was just so much fun. And now for those of you that are new, that found this video because you were looking for a monster truck to check out, you know, this is a great truck to turn into a retro class build. And in fact, I've got another Super Clod kit back there that I'm going to build up on this channel with the J Concepts chassis and a bunch of parts. But the solid axle monster truck segment is an awesome segment to get into. Again, whether you're just building something for fun, building something to race in a racing class, or you just want to experience what we experienced in the past, you just want to deep dive into RC, this truck will definitely bring you there. I had a lot of fun with this Tamiya Clod Buster, and it's probably going to go on the shelf. I sold one in the past. I've regretted it ever since, and this thing is kind of just going to be a shelf queen. I might run it here and there, but it's just really something I wanted to have in my collection, and I bet you there's a lot of other people that want it in their collection as well. All right, guys, hope you just enjoyed my fun time with the Super Clod Buster Black Edition. If you haven't done so yet, please click that subscribe button and the notifications bell. Tell me if you're going to add one of these to your collection in the comments below. We'll see you back soon for some more RC driver videos.